Hey everyone, happy end to the week. Um, Hope your week's been great. I wanted to do this first video just to show everyone out there, like, pretty much, what you can achieve and how easy it can be setting up a reef tank. I've been in this hobby for like 15 years or so. This time around, though, I thought about a year and a half ago, create a system in my home office and just see how it would go. I spent a lot of time working, and why not just have a reef tank up here instead of downstairs? And I think focusing and looking at them more helps overall to be a successful reefer, or at least somewhat see problems maybe before they arise. So here what you're looking at here is a planted aquarium. It's a 100-gallon cube, 3 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, a little more actually. I think maybe 26 inches in one way. The sump is 30-gallon sump. And then over to the right here, I have a plumbed-in 30-gallon deep blue frag tank. It's kind of an old-school tank. It's got a built-in corner overflow, easily plumbed right into one of the manifolds off the main. And I think if you get into a place where I'm at, one of the good problems to have is the overgrowth. But also, I think it's fun fragging up some corals, especially if you're new to it. It can be quite intimidating at first, sawing some of them up or using bone cutters or razor blade to scrape some zoas off a plug. So I think having the frag racks in the main tank can get overpopulated pretty quick, especially if you're out there buying frags off other fellow reefers and stuff like that. So eventually, if you just have one system, you're probably going to morph into a second system, and if not a second system, you'll probably have some sort of frag system. And there's good and bad to them, but I think ultimately the best part about having a system plumbed into your main is just the more water volume, the better these things could be. Or at least easier to diagnose and easier to fix in some ways. So yeah, just a little background on this tank. All the rock in here was all dry rock. I found somebody on Facebook Marketplace that had 200 pounds of all this old rock sitting in the garage for a couple years, so it was free. So I went over, picked it up. I spent a couple months bleaching, curing, and just making sure it was clean pretty good. And then in terms of like the scape and building it, it actually comes all apart in 3 different sections. But I wanted something with a lot of holes, lots of caves, lots of room for different things to go hide. But also, more importantly, have water flow be able to flow through it all. So there's really, really no dead spots under here. I've got the 2 MP40s pumping water pretty good through here. So I'm turning over the column as much as I can. So yeah, pretty cheap cost effective on the dry rock. I used baking soda and then water, not water based, but that very thin super glue. It's like comes out as water. So if you just put, it's like you could use coral sand, you could use crushed up coral, you could use whatever, but I ended up using baking soda. I had a ton of it. So I built the whole scape, filled it with water like everyone does, except in my starting out way of bringing this tank online was I used the Dr. Tim's method, but at the same time I was running a skimmer, and I also was running an algae reactor, or algae scrubber. And I think that benefited me. I didn't have any ugly stages. I didn't use any UV at the time. It was straight up just open 24/7 skim. So I was doing a nice skim there. I used a roller mat, so it was totally fleece, the Clarity 5000 there. And I'll show you in a little bit. No GFO, no carbon, just roller mat into skimmer, and then right back into the tank. So at night when the lights are off, the algae scrubber went on. So I had an 80-gallon tank downstairs, so a lot of the things in here came from that, but mostly it was the fish. So once the ammonia, your nitrites are gone, whatever, I brought up the 2 tanks. I've had them for 10 years already. Brought them into this tank, started getting some bioload. I've had this wrasse for a couple years. The only new fish in here is the fairy wrasse, the 2 cardinals, the Bengai cardinals there. And there's a tail spot blenny I actually had for a bunch of years too in here somewhere. But that's it. Not too much of. There's 2 black and white clowns in here, but other than that, not too much. I think if I had a much larger tank, I would have loaded it more with fish. But there's enough fish in here. Oh yeah, you can see the red hawk there. That it's fine. It's perfect. So anyway, that bioload came in pretty quickly. So I'd say after 2 months this cycled. I had the fish in here. Took my time with it, of course, and just was shooting for stable parameters. So once you throw your fish in here, you start feeding. Okay, time to watch your parameters, see how things are. At that stage, I started dosing all for reef. So I don't remember what I started out a year and a half ago, but it was probably in the teens or maybe 20 mils a day. I'm currently at 60 mils a day or a little under of all for reef. And that was fine. I would check phosphates, I'd check nitrates. Everything was somewhere around 10 for nitrates and 0.08, 0.06 for phosphates. The biggest thing for me was keeping ALK stable, and I hover around 8. Even to today, I hover around 8 to 8.5, a little over. But as long as I'm in like a 0.5, 0.6 range on ALK, I'm fine. Phosphates the same. I pretty much fluctuate from 0.08 to 0.16. And nitrates, they stay around 10 or 11, but I've had them go to 15, 16. As to be expected. Maybe that week I fed a little bit more than I normally do. So I think for the beginning phases, avoiding the ugly stage was contributing factor was the algae scrubber. I didn't do any water changes early on. It wasn't probably until the summer that I started doing them a little bit more regularly. And now I hardly do them at all, to be honest with you. But once I they all say, your tank is not mature until at least a year plus. I mean, being in the hobby for so long, I've heard that. But I think, in the past I've got antsy and wanted to throw a bunch of things in here, and I've not in this one, but in prior ones, and you lose them. Things just die. You start pulling your hair out. You're frustrated. All the above. I think patience is obviously key. So I think part of the success was not throwing a whole lot of bioload in this right away, and then slowly putting things in here. And feeding a little bit differently. Once you have your lighting set up and you like the way the lights are in terms of the hues and whatnot, that's it. Don't touch them again. Same with the flow. I think once you have your flow dialed in early on, leave it. Everything will thank you later for it. There's some Ghanies here, a little bit to the left here. I had them as like just small little frags, and they've blown up pretty nice after that. And they've been in the same spot for just about a year. And then the same thing, torches in the back, some frog spawns, and any LPSs, they'll thank you for the correct flow there. But yeah, I think if you're, you're wondering like how can I best be successful the first time around, just take it pretty simple. And don't rush into throwing a bunch of corals in and things. So yeah, a year and a half later, I had a bunch of racks in this tank on the glass, and it was just getting too ugly. And I clean the glass. It's part of my maintenance thing, probably every day. I just give it a nice little quick clean, and I was tired of moving the frag rack. Sometimes I'd lose the frag rack to the sand. The magnet wasn't pulling too good enough. I mean, this is 1/2 inch glass. There's not many racks you could find for that stick that good on 1/2 inch glass or more. So I knew I need a frag tank, and that's what I did. So this is a cool, like I said, a deep blue 30. Those are nice custom frag racks in there, nice acrylic racks on a slant. There's a Nero 3 power head, dead center on the back, on the bottom, blowing pretty good, 60% or so, and one Tamini tang in there that just if there's any ever algae, he keeps it at bay, and that's kind of it. There's just a bunch of Astra snails in there doing their job. There's probably about 20 in there. They keep it good. I had an urchin in there I pulled from the larger tank at one point. There was some heavy algae, because a new tank, it's just going to bring it. Took care of all that, no problem. And then a week later, put him back in the other tank where there's some more food for him. So this system total is, with the sump, roughly there's probably about 150 so gallons. Fast forward a year and a year and a half. Yeah, my alpha reef is now closer to 60 mils a day. Things grow, so your alk gets consumed a bit, all your parameters get consumed a bit more. So I now dose Kalkwasser. I've been dosing Kalkwasser for a couple months now, probably like 5 months. And I put about 1,100 mils of that in a day. So that helps not deplete alpha reef often. I obviously mix it with the powder, so it's not killing me price-wise. But the Kalkwasser helps keep the pH pretty stable. I dose it throughout the day, so it's not like a night-only sort of solution. I dose it throughout the day for the pH stability throughout the day. However, my auto top-off, I don't want to cause any issues there where the auto top-off isn't running and I'm just putting in Kalkwasser, and it's acting as the auto top-off. So you got to find the right balance there, but once you do, it's definitely beneficial there. And then, in terms of maintenance, I don't do too much water changes. So again, we're a year and a half in. I probably do 5 gallons out of the frag tank. I'll just, because what'll happen in here is right in one of the corners, I'll get a nice little bit of detritus in there. So every few weeks, I'll just suck it out. I'll suck out 5 gallons and put 5 gallons fresh in here. So, if I want to write it on paper, let's just say I do bi-weekly 5-gallon water changes. And I mean, that's it in 150 gallons or so, say, system. So as far as equipment, you could see here I have 3 XR15s. I have G6 blue and 2 G4s. Those G4s are fine. I clean them once a year. There's no problem with the pucks. They provide plenty of par. The Reef Brights just add a nice little hue of blue. You could move them a little bit, so you could kind of like direct that light to the back wall a little bit. As you can see, I like growing zoas on the back wall. It hits the torches on the right side and left side a little bit more too. On the frag tank, I have a G6 XR15 blue. That runs on a different a different schedule in the Mobius app, just because it's more blue and less whites on there. You could tell that it's a little bit more blue when you look at it compared to this tank. There's a bit more white, but I don't run too much white. I think at the most 12% or something like that on both warm and cool. Auto feeder, pretty easy, self-explanatory there. I think that thing goes off twice a day. I really only feed LRS Reef Frenzy in here. If I do a powder, I broadcast it, and that powder is Benepets. It just has a little bit less nutrients, so my nutrients won't spike. I dose live Fido in here daily. And then once or twice a week, I put Brightwell's Restore in here. And then Reef Energy maybe once a week. And Oyster Feast. So Oyster Feast is nice for everything. And then I think, what I'm kind of new with the past probably 6 months is I started the Reef Moonshiners dosing. And I have to say, I've been super impressed with how that all works. Yes, it's more of a maintenance thing because you have dailies you have to use your droplet to put in. But I mean, I'm dosing manually 6 things. So while I'm feeding or while I'm waiting for it to thaw out, I just put in the drops I'm supposed to put in every day. And the biggest thing I've seen is on all my LPFs, all my torches, all my hammers and whatnot, the flesh is down to the plug consistently. And now what I'm seeing is the flesh is growing throughout the plug. So I mean, and I'm not even really feeding them directly any mysis or anything, so for me it's pretty impressive. You send out your ICP. I do mine every 2 months just to see where my levels are at. I think the biggest thing that this tank eats up, if you're looking at what of those 1 elements is taking up the most, it's fluoride. So usually every 2 months I have to put 150 mils of fluoride in here. So I'm hoping to get, after a couple more tests, a good average, and then I probably won't have to send in so many tests. They can get quite pricey. I do have another system downstairs that I run as well. So yeah, this is it. This is, so yes, you could start out pretty basic, and things could work pretty good. I think a year and a half into it, if you're successful, you're going to start toying with things. Like I said, I do the Reef Moonshiners. You may want to do something else. All of it is beneficial. These corals, the water, everything takes up those nutrients in some way, shape, or form. And it's also very difficult to manage a mixed reef. The softies and the different corals like that, like your zoas and stuff. Let me throw on my little orange lens here for you, just for some more color. You could see, like, they're nice. Like, I could grow zoas no problem. The only thing I probably have not a tougher time, but aren't so fluffy and fat like you see maybe some other YouTube videos, are acans. Although acans are very good in here, they're not so fluffy and fat. But my blastos, on the other hand, do very well, and seem to enjoy everything that's going on in here. Acros grow. I've got all sorts of growth all over the place with them. But most things in here are probably pushing the 1 year mark. So yeah, I think it's typical growth. Slow and steady wins the race, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, that's it kind of in a nutshell for what's going on. So like I said, lights, all radions, the pumps are radions. I have the one Nero. Like I said, I feed LRS. There is some mysis shrimp in there. Live Fido every day, Oyster Feast every day. Once or twice a week, Brightwell Restore, AB Plus, and I think everything's just good with that. And a little bit of Benepets too. So yeah, I'll just take it down a little bit more here, and we can see what's going on in the sump. Again, nothing too crazy. It's pretty tight in here, so I think maybe I did okay with the space I have. Let me take the ones off there. So yeah, so what you see here from left to right, water comes in from both systems into the Clarisea, goes and gets skimmed, goes in a third chamber, gets pumped out. I liked Octo's equipment. I think their skimmers are fantastic. I have the Vario 6 for the return pump. It's awesome. And that's like your workhorses of this system. They're doing their job. At the bottom, I am running a circulator scrubber or CO2 scrubber. So for whatever reason in this room of the house in my office, I have low pH. So this helps keep it right at 8.27. I'll drop, sometimes at night it could get to 7.9 and 7.95. So like there's a 0.2 difference probably that fluctuates. Something to work on, but also not really. I don't care. Things are growing fine. So at the bottom I have on the left, I dose all for reef in the left container there. In the middle container, that's neonitrate from Brightwell. It's just there in case I need to dose nitrates. There was a pass where for whatever reason my nitrates were going to like 5 instead of the 12 or 10 that I like, and I'll use it to catch up and then figure out what was going on, and it just ended up being me not feeding enough or something. And then the Aquamax, that's GFO in there, that's Roa Phos, that keeps my phosphates perfect. I'm always steady. I test maybe once every 2 weeks, and like I said, I fluctuate phosphates between 0.06 and 0.08. I do have them go up to like 0.18 at times. I'm fine with that. It's okay. Don't go changing everything drastically. Just like let it ride out, and usually by that time you figure it out, like why they did it. And then up a little bit, that's the clear water scrubber. So that's doing the algae, and that thing gets really packed with algae. So every 3 weeks I probably take that screen out, scrape it off, rinse it off, put it back in. It's doing a fantastic job. I can't say enough about it. And then some Neptune products. So the Neptune's dosed in the Alpha Reef, it's dosed in the Kalkwasser, and it's dosed in the neonitrate if needed. Trident obviously is doing its thing. I don't trust the Trident all the way, but it gives me an average. So I still manually test using HANA once a month just to make sure I'm in line, and usually everything on the Trident is about 0.5 or less difference than the HANA. So that's just me. That's just how I test. That's what I found. So I don't know which one's more accurate, HANA or Trident, but either way, there's a 0.5 difference. Talking about like ALK, there's a bit of a difference. Calcium, same with magnesium, but nothing crazy. It's all like within a close parameter. So that's it. The skimmer's off right now. So that the other thing I do is I turn the skimmer off for 4 hours a night, and you can't see it in there, but in the sump there's a Dr. Tim's waste away gel. So I'm getting plenty of beneficial bacteria at least for 4 hours in here. So it has time to do its thing, and I think that contributes also to not having the ugly stages. I was running that also early on. In this tank, so I didn't have to deal with any mess of diatoms or any like diatom blooms or dinos or anything. This tank was flawless right from the beginning, which I'm happy about, and I think that's all kind of what we strive for. Hopefully guys, this gives you kind of like a little bit of hope if you're stuck or something like that. You could always just comment, but definitely if you're starting out, if it's intimidating, sure. You know, there's a few things you could do, like I went over, but yeah, cleanup crews are important too. Your copepods are great for establishing them in early on. You just got to feed them a little bit in the beginning, get them healthy, and then just watch your tank. I mean, if I'm gonna leave this here, just watch your tank. It'll tell you what's going on, and you can make adjustments. Corals will tell you. Everything will tell you. And then, yeah, I mean, if one coral is doing poorly but everything else is doing fine, then just, you know, maybe pull it out, give it to the local fish store or a buddy or something, and just see if they could revive it. But don't go changing things drastically just for one coral, because obviously that could mess up every other coral in your tank. And then just have fun with it. It's your Picasso. It's your work of art. You know, just enjoy your piece of art. Enjoy the livestock in it. Enjoy having, you know, a piece of ocean in your room. You know, all the above. It's probably the coolest hobby, but it can get there. And I'm really just here to say, like, it's not that bad. It can be, anything kind of can be tamed. And this is to say also, this isn't, you know, the best tank anywhere on YouTube. I've seen like amazing people have amazing tanks. It's just mind-blowing. This is just my little work of art that's successful for me. And hopefully you guys, you all see it can be successful for you too. So yeah, hit me up in the comments if there's anything else you want to see or me elaborate a bit more on. I wanted to keep this at the 20-minute mark. I went a little bit above, but anyway, first video, probably get better at these things. But anyway, hope you enjoy, and yeah, have a good end to the week and a new good beginning to the week. Take care. Bye.